Hello and welcome to this special discussion, live discussion on the wire on Gujarat elections. The counting is on. Some initial trends have come, and it clearly seems like a close fight so far. And to analyze the trends that we've seen over the last few hours, we have with us a political editor of Caravan, Hartosh Bal, who's travelled to Gujarat in the past and understands Gujarat fairly well. Welcome to our show, Hartosh. So what's your take so far? Seems like a close fight?
Well, certainly. I mean, the results are close, the results are coming in, and all of us know by now that it's too difficult or too foolish at this stage to be actually calling anything out.
Yeah.
What is certainly true is...
So what are the certainties so far? That Congress is doing much better than anticipated, and BJP doing much worse than anticipated?
The Congress is doing better, the BJP doing worse. But again, as I said, for us to be able to say this with certainty will only be true when the voting percentages, the vote percentages are in, because the seats are no guarantor of what is actually happening in terms of percentages of votes, and that will take some time.
But isn't it a certainty that BJP, which got 60% vote share in 2014 elections, they would be at least 10 percentage points down from that high?
No question. You cannot have this kind of jostling for leads with a 60% vote percentage. That would be very, very clear. So that has certainly come down by a huge margin. There's a huge change, and I think what we have to watch out for is, while the BJP seems to be ahead in several trends on several websites, the rural seats and the rural votes will be the last ones to come in. So there's still some way to go before we can say that the BJP is going to take this as a close election. And I think that's what we have to wait and watch as we go along.
What should you describe as, let's say, a moral victory for the Congress, even if BJP wins by a small margin?
Look, I think as long as both numbers are in double figures, I think that is something that the Congress can actually say. We have gone into the den of the lion, literally, in terms of electoral stature, at least, that Narendra Modi enjoys, and have wrestled him down to the ground. They may not have pinned the lion down, but certainly it has weakened Narendra Modi in a way that was unexpected. But as I said, I'm not going to say that yet. We have to wait a while, see what the results are, see where the trends sort of settle down on.
And Hartosh, going by the, again, I'm going back to the 2014 vote share of BJP, when Narendra Modi was at the peak of his popularity, and in Gujarat, of course, it would have been even more so than in the rest of the country. They got about 60% vote share, and some analysts say that if translated into vote share on that, translated to seats on that vote share, it would be something like 160 seats. So at least that we are fairly clear that is not happening, because if that were happening, then the leads, BJP would have been leading at least 150 or 160 seats.
Quite clearly. And I mean, certainly there was no question of repeating 2014. I think all of us were aware of that. And I'm pretty sure if we look ahead to 2019, that the Assembly Lok Sabha seats will be different. So if we do compare it to 2012, and that is where
Congress got 38% and BJP got 48%.
That's where the BJP would like the comparison to be. They don't even want to look at 2014 today. So if we keep that in context, even then, I think that kind of vote percentage difference will not be able to explain the trend so far, is my sense. So certainly it's a closer election than 2012, leave alone 2014.
So would you say, just taking off from what you just said, deriving from what you just said, would you then argue that BJP will be maybe a 2 or 3 percentage point down from their 2012 vote share of 48%?
But
and therefore maybe the partidars and some of the communities, the younger lot, farmers who are resentful of Gujarat administration, and of course the central administration in regard to demonetization and GST, do you think some shift has happened towards the Congress?
Well, certainly that seems to be the case so far on what is available. And I think we'll have to look at a host of these factors, which is why a breakdown of these results will be fascinating, because, I mean, we are looking at rural distress, we are looking at caste politics, we are looking at the impact of GST. Certainly, a lot of people have concentrated on the impact of GST on traders, but, I mean, the feedback that we are getting is that the real impact is on manufacturers and way down on the labor chain. Again, what you would expect is again some degree of rural distress even there. How this adds up, the rural-urban divide and the caste divide will be critical once we sit down and analyze the vote percentages later. But it seems to have made an impact and have dented the BJP in ways they did not expect.
So, seeing the... I was in Ahmedabad 2 days ago, but for a different reason. I had gone there to fight the court case, the J. Shah case at the Ahmedabad court for the Wire. I met local journalists, and the consistent feedback that I got was, even today, this morning, a lot of experienced local journalists in Gujarat are saying that it's a close fight. Even yesterday they were saying it's a much closer fight than what the exit polls seem to show. So, would you say that the gut feel of the local journalists seems to be bearing out?
Yeah, look, I mean, we have to quite frankly admit the simple fact that in India the exit polls are becoming a lottery, and they all seem to be biased one way usually. That is for the party in power.
Like Chanakya has given BJP some 150 plus seats.
So I think it's time to call out this whole exit poll industry and the racket that is being run in its name. And I think we have no other choice, because the other means are certainly not working, is to go back and look at how elections are reported, covered and analyzed to see the impact government power and money power is having in the spin on the elections, because this is, leave alone the exit polls, the same kind of machinery is in operation while opinion polls are concerned, and those have real impacts on how people end up voting.
Tell me, Hartosh, now coming back to the so far we are assuming that it's a much closer fight than what the exit polls seem to show. Now, tell me, what does this spell for BJP? The Gujarat model. How much does this dent Narendra Modi's projection of Gujarat, as it were, from 2014 onwards? And he has lost no opportunity, whether he went to the US or whether all his trips abroad, he would speak of Gujarat, and or if visiting heads of state, he would take them to Gujarat, whether it was the Japanese Prime Minister or whether it was Xi Jinping, China. So this whole projection of his vision of India through Gujarat, what happens to that after this election, or going by present trends?
Well, I mean, I don't even think that we have to wait about the trends. I think it had become quite apparent in the course of the Gujarat elections that Narendra Modi was getting the same feedback, that these results are showing that it was a closer election. So, and since we enter an election year and we have a lot of important elections, you can see that the change in rhetoric during the Gujarat campaign, going from Vikas to suddenly the politics that he revels in, of innuendo, suggestive bigotry, of twisting remarks. You got everything, from Manishankar Iyer to Manmohan Singh to a Pakistan conspiracy to Ahmed Patel
half-truths, lies,
everything. And I think the second Narendra Modi is what we are going to see in the next 1 year. I think this is what he revels in. This is what he really enjoys. He likes to get mucky and dirty in elections, and he's going to spread this muck and dirt through the country, exceeding what he has already managed to do.
So you're essentially saying that the last 1 week, the Narendra Modi that we saw in the last 7 days of the campaign, we'll see more of that Narendra Modi in the run-up to the Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, other state elections and 2019 elections. Is that what you're saying?
Certainly. I mean, I have no doubts about that. And I mean, it is in that context, and I still maintain my criticism. What worries me is, despite the fact that it may be seen as succeeding on working in Gujarat, that the cost of what the Congress has done is that if we are going to take away the last 1 week of Modi and extend it to the next year, are we going to see this Rahul of this campaign extend over the country? In that sense, it doesn't matter who's won or lost this elections, the RSS is winning. Yeah, there is a Hindu face to our politics in a way that I have never seen before. Where does it leave the rest of us who don't identify with overt Hindu symbolism either way?
Hartosh, in this context, there's some very something interesting that Christopher Jefferlot recently wrote in Indian Express. And when I was in Ahmedabad, I happened to meet him, and he also said something very interesting. He said that part of the reason why Modi panicked midway through the Gujarat campaign was because he clearly saw caste politics asserting itself in Gujarat. Because Gujarat was one place where Hindu consolidation was a kind of permanently done deal, right? It was their original laboratory for the Hindutva experiment. They felt shaky there. Now, to some extent, I thought that even in Bihar, there was a slight comparison I was drawing. There were some parallels with Bihar where also midway through the Bihar election, they brought up Pakistan. I mean, Amit Shah said that Pakistan will celebrate. There was, again, a Hindu consolidation. And the reason they did that there was also because that caste politics was kind of dominating the elections there. And they had that fear here also, Patidars moving away, OBCs moving away. So how do you see that? Do you think because of economic distress and growing economic distress, unhappiness, some form of, that's what Jefferlot says, caste/class politics may reassert itself in the coming months and maybe in the next year or so. And we saw that in the Western UP civic polls at the tier 3, where the middle peasantry, who were Jats who were always with BJP, seem to have voted against the BJP, for independent but against the BJP. So how do you see this dynamic playing out?
I think we have to see 2-3 things. One is, of course, I think you will, that the caste politics never really has died down. Yeah. And if you go through all the
not died down, but reasserting in a bigger way.
Saying, if you actually look at the percentages, even in UP, caste politics, it is because you see Mayawati and Mulayam on different sides or Akhilesh. If you add up their vote percentages, the BJP still has. So the issue of caste stands directly in the way of BJP. There is nothing that stands in the way of Hindu consolidation more than caste. And the BJP has always struggled against this problem. And you've seen that in Bihar, and I'm saying in UP it is a problem that has not disappeared. They have been saved by the fact that the opposition itself is divided. The reassertion in Gujarat is very important because, as you pointed out, Gujarat was once a caste laboratory.
It was a done deal,
which had been transformed by, in fact, you have to see the Modis of the 80s working with the RSS itself, who saw this experiment, the transformation of the old Kham coalition into a Hindutva coalition for the BJP. How he changed caste conflict into religious conflict in Gujarat. And that transition was important to winning Gujarat and then using it as a leapfrog for the rest of the country. And any reassertion of that caste politics in a way that breaks down Hindutva is the one thing that is the most damaging for the BJP and the one thing that the BJP most fears in sort of electoral politics.
So would you suggest, Hartosh, that if both the parties finally get seats in double digits, as is possible, it's still quite close. So would you then say that if Congress is that close to BJP's number of seats and vote share also, suppose the vote share difference also not more than say 2 or 3 percentage points. So would you then conclude that Congress has managed to partially revive their old Kham alliance and added Patel to it, Patidar?
Well,
do you think it could become a kind of Khamp form of combination,
Look, I think the one thing that we have to admit in the old Kham, that and I say this with some care even before the voting percentages are in, that unless the Congress reorients itself dramatically, the A part of it, the Adivasi part of it, the scheduled tribes part of the old Congress vote is gone from the Congress forever across this belt from Gujarat to Madhya Pradesh, and you are seeing the impact in election after election. So certainly that vote bank as a majority has gone to the BJP. And the big if that remains to be seen is we must go back also to ask ourselves the question, what if it is not a double digit victory? What if the BJP manages to cross 105, say, and the Congress is down to the 70s? So yeah, the Congress can boast about an improved performance, but at what cost to what the Congress stands for? Yeah. So I think that's the flip side of the question that we have to look at as the results are coming in, and I'm not sure where they are going to settle down. Since they've been going out, there is so much volatility in the results.
What are the trends showing latest?
Well, I mean, it depends on where you turn to, which channel. There is NDTV, which is showing 107.74, ABP, which is showing 98.80. There is Times Now. Well, let me see, that's showing 92.86. So,
but this seems to be. Let's take Times Now, which
is 92.86. Yeah, NDTV is showing 105.76. So, I mean, we can analyze the elections in any which way depending on those two trends. So, what I'm saying.
But would you say it's a close election?
I mean, depends. I mean, if you look at the NDTV results at the moment, I'm not so sure it is as close as we think it is.
Times Now seems to suggest it's quite close.
So all I'm saying is that we are actually going through a counting which is very, very volatile.
And Times Now should not be happy suggesting that it's a close election, right?
Yeah. So far, I think certainly we should be able to say it's a far closest election as of this moment than anybody anticipated.
Say closest Gujarat Assembly elections probably since 2002?
Certainly. I mean, post-Modi. We can certainly say post-Modi, this is the closest fight we are witnessing in Gujarat.
So Narendra Modi will not like this?
Well, certainly at this moment, what is happening is not something Modi likes. I think if we know the man, to him, watching these results coming in, these trends, he will not be happy.
So just as the opposition kind of made him sweat in the last, say, 10 days of the polls of the polling process, I think probably he must be sweating in the first few hours of counting.
Certainly, Amit Shah and Modi may be sweating, but I think what matters on polling day is eventually what happens at the end of the day. So all the sweating, if you're going to see large differences in vote percentages, sort of becomes meaningless. And when the trends settle in and we actually see the numbers, I think that is when we can, with some degree of certainty, start analyzing. We all know the perils of calling elections midway and making assumptions about it, which is why I keep qualifying myself.
Yeah. And so from these numbers, Hartosh, whether you take Times Now or ABP, or take an average of Times Now, ABP and NDTV, they seem to be in double digits both, if you take the average of all three, right?
Sure.
But so how would you read Hardik Patel effect in the polls so far?
Well,
from the counting so far.
It would suggest that he's had an impact. I mean, the Patels were firmly behind BJP so far in the other elections. I mean, what we still don't have available, and I think it will come out as the analysis pans out, is a region-wise breakup. And I think a complete demarcation of what impact that Hardik Patel has had is when we look at the Saurashtra results, we look at the North Gujarat, Central Gujarat and South Gujarat results separately, is when we will be able to actually analyze the kind of impact Hardik Patel has had on these elections.
Okay. Some initial trends which I saw, some psephologists were saying that in Saurashtra, BJP seems to have done well, which has a larger concentration of patidars. And in North Gujarat, where BJP was supposed to was expected to do very well, Congress seems to have done better. That's what about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, some psephologists were suggesting.
So, I mean, again, that remains a good question. This region-wise breakup is going to give us some. I wonder if there are people actually looking and watching at this point of time, and if we get some information, I'm trying to see what I can get on this. But I think that region-wise breakup will remain crucial. And as I said, because there's still quite a ways in this result. Usually by this time at 10, we are at the point where we can say with some great certainty that this is what is happening in the election results. This kind of certainty, I think we have to go back to the Bihar polls to actually see that this kind of uncertainty at 10 a.m., 2 hours after counting has begun.
I remember in Bihar, everybody had pronounced BJP victory after the first hour of counting, right?
And today we've had both, the BJP is surging ahead in the beginning, the Congress coming back. Now it seems more and more that we are sort of settling down to a lead for the BJP, which seems more comfortable than we had half an hour ago. But it's not a huge difference again. So I think this also has the potential to change, go up and down, because changes in 5 seats will already change the trends dramatically. Which is why I say that, I mean, many of the conclusions that we want to at this stage be driving of these elections remain open. I think we keep watching, looking at the trends, seeing the numbers.
But one conclusion, Hartosh, can be made with fair certainty, which is that, number one, it's the closest election
post-Modi.
Post-Modi.
Absolutely.
That's a done deal?
That's a done.
And number two, probably the best performance by Congress since Modi.
So
would you say that?
Absolutely. So as of now, and again, I think our own conclusions will change as the results. What would you take away? I mean, I also want to hear your sense of where the Congress and the BJP go from here, judging by the campaigns.
See, my sense, Hartosh, is that even if Congress loses, even if BJP gets, say, 105 seats and Congress gets, say, 75, in terms of numbers, seat numbers, it would still be the best performance by the Congress. And it is coming at a time when Rahul Gandhi takes over as president. And a certain, whether we like it or not, a certain new energy has got injected into the opposition. And I see other opposition parties also kind of hoping that Congress does well, so that in the run-up to the 2019 elections, Congress is able to play a certain pole position. So one thing that becomes very apparent from these results, even if BJP gets, say, 105 or 106 and Congress gets 170, 75, one clear conclusion is that national politics takes an interesting turn with Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi clearly being pitted against each other as leaders of two largest parties, which was not the case, Hartosh, if you remember, until about 5-6 months ago, where it seemed as if Congress was a somewhat a bigger version of a fragment of various opposition parties.
So,
would you agree with that?
My only question is, and which is what I find sort of also rather depressing in our scenario, that
what I'm saying is perception. I'm not saying about whether Congress is still weak organizationally. They still have to do a lot of things.
I agree. Yeah. All I'm saying is that look at what, in terms of opposition, we are taking away hope from. It seems so far, and I think it's still too early to call, that the BJP seems to be edging ahead in Gujarat. Himachal is going to the BJP. The Congress is actually going down today from 5 states in the country to 4 states in the country, and it may be losing Gujarat. And we actually are seeing that as signs of hope for the Congress. So remarkably, I think Modi has also created such a scenario where the opposition has been pushed to that corner, where marginal gains in elections translating not into defeat, not into victory, but a good defeat, are being seen as signs, at least in terms of perception, of gains for...
Some might call it, would you call it desperation of the liberals or what?
Well, I certainly think that there is a liberal desperation to find hope. And especially to find hope in Rahul Gandhi. You know my views on Rahul Gandhi. I have very little faith in Rahul Gandhi actually committing himself to any vision of liberal and open India.
Do you think he might surprise you?
Well, I've been waiting from 2004 for him to surprise me. You know, it has been 13 years in power. He has not surprised me so far. And he has taken every opportunity to conform to the kind of politics that may possibly bring him gains, but has never stood for any values that I would like to support. So, in that context, I find it interesting that we think that we can get something out of these elections that bodes well for the future.
So, you're suggesting that opposition possibly is clutching at straws?
Well, look, as I said, I think weakened Modi and weakened BJP is something we can take away from these elections. In some ways, weakened marginally if the results hold up to 105 and 110 seats. Weakened in a way that is more about perception if it is down to 100, 98 and 97. But is the Congress going to be able to spin this once the BJP seats cross 105? I think they will definitely try to do so today. I'm not so sure that they'll be able to do so.
They'll be able to do so. And Hartosh, tell me, coming back to your earlier observation that this will make Modi go more and more Hindutva in the state elections which are coming next year and in the run-up to the 2019 general elections. Do you think the opposite is also possible? He may realize, as Jaffarlot wrote in the Express, if he figures that because of uniform economic distress, economic growth being sluggish, inequalities having gone up, people's incomes being stagnant, employment not being generated, all these are facts on the ground. And if he figures that he's reached a saturation point of milking Hindutva and maybe returns to some more real political economy and returns to real issues as bread and butter issues, do you rule out that possibility?
Well, look, first we look at it from the view of Rahul and political economy.
Yeah.
That is where I'm interested in. If you look at the Gujarat elections, what was he offering as an alternative? He was not saying that the GST itself is a problem. He's talking of better implementation of GST.
Yeah.
He's talking of jobs not being created, but he's not suggesting how he will create jobs.
He was not giving substantive solutions.
Not only that, I think the strongest economic difference between the previous Congress governments and this one's was not at this level. What has the Congress lost? The Dalit vote is slipping away. You are seeing a shift of percentage, certainly in this Gujarat polls. Adivasi vote has gone. Issues like Enrega, looking at the grassroots, looking at tackling what was in some ways important welfare politics. Those are issues that Rahul is sidestepping entirely in terms of his economic vision, leave alone his vision, social vision. If the Congress is not able to get back the Dalits, the Adivasis, much of the rest is useless. He can wear a Janyu and go around casting for upper caste votes. He is not going to get back the upper caste votes from the BJP simply until there's a substantial chunk of its old reserve sitting back with the Congress.
Here, Hartosh, I want to, it's very interesting you're saying this. Now, I want to take you back into a bit of Congress history. Somebody sent me an interesting set of facts, researched facts, actually a congressman, and it said that in 1998, when Sonia took over as president of Congress, Congress was at its lowest point in terms of its presence in states or in terms of its victories in state elections, and it was not there at the center. Vajpayee had taken over as Prime Minister, and apparently it had governments in less than 5 states, 5 or less than 5 states, and in virtually every state, splinter groups of Congress had come about, and it seemed that the Congress party was dying, and lo and behold, in the next 5-6 years, Sonia Gandhi with so little experience somehow managed to revive the Congress enough for it to come to lead a coalition in 2004. So, do you think there is something about Congress which sort of rises from the ashes, phoenix-like, from time to time, irrespective of the leader's qualities or the leader's vision, lack of it?
Well, so certainly, let me throw the lens back the other way. So the Congress has periodically risen from the ashes. The gaps between its rising are getting longer and longer.
And of course, after that, it doesn't reach its peak. It goes into a decline.
On the other side, what is true is that since independence, let's say since the death of Nehru actually is where the rise of the RSS and right-wing politics has been literally consistent. Every failure of the Congress has actually pushed the right to greater strengths. And that is not changing. From 2004 to 2014, the Congress sat here.
Yeah.
its great weakness is the same weakness Rahul is today showing. He is not confronting the dangers of communalism. If he had the strength, Amit Shah and Adityanath today should not be allowed to practice electoral politics. They should be behind bars. This is the weakness of worrying about perceptions without standing for your own values. It is the same thing I talk in terms of economics. 2009 was a victory in many ways when the Congress had actually dared to go in for what? The RTI, the Narega. The 2009 to 2014 Congress, do you have a single achievement to point to?
Actually, Hartosh, just to buttress your point and to tell our viewers that it is after the Babri Masjid demolition, there was a temporary setback for BJP in some states, but in the mid to late 90s, they consistently increased their vote share on the Hindutva plank, in almost doubled in Gujarat, Bihar, where they had no presence. In UP, they further strengthened their vote shares. So, in a sense, what you're saying is that the BJP and the Sangh Parivar have been very clear-headed about their issues, and they have been like pegging away at it, and they have been increasing their vote share consistently in centre, at the states. And in some ways they peaked. Modi was, BJP's peaked, 31% vote share at the national election. So you're saying that Congress is not, the point you're making is that they're yet to come out and sort of with clarity put out a vision before the people which actually revives them to their older vote shares. Well, is that what you're saying?
Much more than that. What I'm saying is that Rahul is a man who's following the mob. You know, the mob wants him to put a tilak and walk around. He's following it. He is not a man who comes across as a leader. And I know the Congress will spin the results any which way they want. But in the long term, the rise of Hindutva, the steady rise of Hindutva is only strengthening the BJP with each passing year. And the Congress may get temporary electoral gains. But in the long term, that is not a strategy by which you can confront what is happening in this country. You have to have some positive values that you stand for. You have to have a positive economic vision. That what are you arguing with? You are arguing over efficiency, that I am a more efficient government.
But would you be happy if Rahul Gandhi says that, okay, I am a good Hindu, but, and then he attacks political Hindutva far more decisively and unambiguously? Will that be a
I have no problem. Is that something which I would start with my space?
Because currently the problem is you declare yourself a good Hindu, and then you remain ambiguous towards the Hindutva forces, right? So is that a problem, or?
Sure. But let me put it even more. That there is no point in being a good Hindu if your Hinduness only emerges at election time. Why have we not seen the Hindu Rahul Gandhi for 45 years? Did it have to wait to this elections, or in the last 2 years? Faith is something that is part of your daily practice. And if we had a vision of Rahul Gandhi as a good Hindu, we would have known it by now. What Rahul Gandhi is doing is Hindutva, it is not Hinduism. And that is my point, that this is exactly what strengthens Hindutva, because he is using it for political ends in the same way BJP is. It does not come out of faith.
Finally, Hartosh, we'll have other guests also coming in for discussion. If this is a close fight, and if this is Congress's best performance since Modi's 1992, the big victory, and Modi's worst performance since 92. How do you see Modi as Prime Minister and as the lead campaigner for BJP behave in the Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, other elections which are coming up, and in the 2019 elections? Just want your sense of...
As I said, I mean, it's difficult to believe it's possible, but I think our politics will get dirtier over this 1 year.
Dirtier over the period, right?
Yes.
I mean, more dirtier in
the worst possible way. In the same way, the last 1 week, there will be communal rhetoric, there will be innuendos, Pakistan will be invoked, the anti-national tag will be invoked, all sorts of allegations will be raised.
And between the forces of Hindutva and the forces of caste and stroke class, do you think it will be a interesting battle, or it will be a
well,
keen,
it will depend from state to state. I mean, in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan, there will be anti-incumbency and Hindutva sort of which will jostle with each other. Because caste consolidations in these states, there is no large OBC castes around which you can get caste consolidations as you get in UP and Bihar. So these states have a different dynamics. While caste is important, you don't get caste consolidations in the same way.
And generally, Hartosh, do you get a sense that the people of India, what they had, the hopes that Modi raised in 2014, and the way the economy has progressed and the way things have turned out economically, there is a general level of disappointment. Is that
certainly, that is evident. It's evident in the jokes on WhatsApp. It is evident in the comments that we hear. It is evident in the kind of results we see.
So, Hartosh, the latest, very interesting. The numbers show a pretty close again. 95 BJP lead and 84 Congress. So this,
it's, as I said, still all open.
So this looks like this would make Modi and Amit Shah sweat even more.
Certainly,
they might lose some weight today, seeing this counting.
They can afford to it.
Yeah. So Hartosh, with this, I think we'll wind up this round of discussion. We'll have some more guests coming in. Thanks for watching.